Dear students, now in this class we are going to discuss about your next chapter, that is chapter 9 by name Constructors and Destructors. So what actually mean the constructors? Okay, anything which is used to construct something, that can be called as a constructor. A thing which is used to build something is called as a constructor. And what is meant by destructor? A thing which is used to destroy something, that thing we can call it as a destructor. Same like that here in your chapter. Okay, we are going to discuss about the programming constructors and the programming destructors. Okay, what is actually mean the constructor here? Sometimes it is possible when an object is created. What is an object? It is an instance of class. Okay, under classes and objects we have discussed. Sometimes if an object is created, then it is possible to initialize the same object when it is created. Okay, so this initialization of same object is possible only with the help of a special function, or which can be called as a special member function. And that special member function which makes the initialization of an object possible, that special member function will be called as the constructor. Okay, now we shall see about constructor. Constructor. Okay, how can we explain this? Constructor is a special member function. Constructor. Okay, I will write pointers. Okay, because it will be easy for you to write in your examination. Constructor is a special member function. Special member function. This is function. It is a special member function, and that is called automatically. Okay, which I have explained. That is called automatically. Okay, when it is called automatically, when an object is created. If in a program an object is created, at the time the constructor is called automatically. Okay, so this is called as a constructor. A constructor is a special member function that is called automatically when an object is created. And one more point we can define the constructor. Okay, constructor is a special member function constructor is a special member function. Okay, and then this special member function is used, that is used in the classes. Where it is used? It is used in the classes. Okay, for what this is used in the classes? Okay, it is a special member function. Okay, to call automatically when an object is created. Okay, this can be written in some other words in the classes. Then after that, to initialize the objects of the classes. To initialize the objects of the classes automatically. Okay, objects of the classes automatically. Okay, the same thing. Okay, but here little bit standard form. We have explained it, little bit standard form. So this can be called as a constructor. Okay, it is used for, it is a special member function. Constructor is a special member function. Okay, and that is called automatically. Okay, see here in classes to initialize the objects of the classes automatically. Okay, but here it is given as called automatically when an object is created. And one more point, a constructor is a constructor is always be a member function of the class. Member function of the class. Okay, constructor is a member function of the class and as the same name as that of a class. Okay, constructor is having, it is a member function of the class. Just like in classes and objects, we have discussed that member data and member functions. So constructor is a member function. It comes under public access specifier. Okay, member function always comes under public access specifier. So here constructor is a member function of the class, and this constructor is having the name same as that of a class. Okay, it copies. In other words, it can be explained as constructor copies the name of the class. It is having the name same as that of the class. And one more point, a constructor is defined. A constructor is defined like other member functions in the class. So, though it is a member function of the class and it is having the name same like a class, this constructor is defined, okay, like other member functions, as other member functions are defined in the class, same in that way. Okay, this constructor is defined within the class itself. And one more point. Hope you have understood all these things. And how this class can be defined. Okay, the member function of a class, it is having the name same as that of class. Okay, so it is defined like other member functions. But how, where it can be defined? Okay, it can be defined. It can be defined either inside the class definition, or outside the class definition. Or outside the class definition. Okay, either this constructor can be defined, okay, inside the class definition, or maybe defined outside the class definition. That constructor can be defined either inside the class definition or outside the class definition. And now we are going to see few more things regarding this constructors and what are the things are there regarding this constructor. Now we are going to discuss. So dear students, now we are going to discuss regarding the rules of the constructors. Okay, what are the rules are there to define a constructor? Now we are going to discuss about these things. The following rules are used. The following rules are used to define a constructor. To define a constructor. Okay, some rules are there to define a constructor. This is important for your examination point of view. You may get this question for 3 minutes. Okay, write the rules for defining a constructor. Okay, the first point here is the constructor has name. Okay, it should have name same as that of class name. Okay, same as that of class name where they are defined. Okay, see, this is D. Okay. A constructor should have the name. Okay, that is same as that of the class name, because in which class they are defined, or the constructor has the name. It is having name same as that of class name in which they are defined. It means in which class they are defined, or these things can be in which they are defined. This can be written as of which you write like this, of which they are the members, of which they are the members. Okay, you can write like this. Both are the members of the same class and constructor. Okay, so the same name has given to both. Okay, both should be of the same class. Both should be of the members of same class. For what it is given, so the compiler can understand that they are the constructors. Okay, the compiler needs to understand that the defined things are the constructors. Okay, so for that same name has been given to the class and constructor, okay, of which they are the members. Okay, they are the members of which class? The same name has to be given to the class and to the constructor, so that the compiler can easily identify. Okay, instead of writing this thing. Okay, this is important. Compiler can identify. identify. Okay. Compiler will understand, but identify that they are the constructors. And come. Next point we are going to see. Second point is there is no return type. There is no return type. What is meant by return type? If we use void before the main function, then the discard function should have return type. Even not void. Okay, void should also not be used with the constructor. Okay, just like we are using void main, void get data, void put data, void display. This type void should not be used with the constructor. This is the condition here. Okay, there is no return type, even not void. Void should not be returned with the constructor. Since why this void should not be used? Because since the constructor is called automatically, though the constructor is called automatically, so return type like void also will not be used with the constructor automatically by the system. So it should not be used. Return type should not be used with the constructors. And then there is no program for it to. There is no program for it to return. There is no program for the constructor to return anything to the constructor, and then a return value would not make sense. A return value would not make sense. Okay, see, return type should not be used, even void also, because the constructor is called automatically by the system. Okay, because the constructor does not have any program to return anything to the computer, and also the return value does not make any sense with the constructor. Return value does not make any sense with the constructor. So for all these reasons, okay, return type should not be used with the constructor, just like void. Okay, void main, void get data, void put data, void display, void calculate, and so on we were using while defining classes. Okay, but when we define the constructor, at that time the return type like void should not be used with the constructor. Then third, a constructor should be defined. A constructor should be defined under the public section. Under the public section, which I have just now explained. That means the constructor should always be defined under public access specifiers. Okay, it should not be defined in private, or it should not be defined in protected. Under protected also constructor should not be defined. Why? Because protector is same as that of private access specifiers. So we should not use we should not define constructor under private or not even under protected. Only it should be defined under the public access specified. The next thing. A constructor is invoked automatically. Okay, if I write here, then you will understand clearly. Next one, the fourth one. A constructor is invoked automatically. Okay, a constructor is invoked. Invoked means it is called. It means executed. A constructor is invoked automatically. Automatically when an object is created. When an object is created. This thing I have explained in the definition of a constructor. Okay, it is called automatically when an object is constructed, and constructor is not having default. Okay, this is default, DEFAULT. This is automatic. Default arguments. Okay, constructor is not having any default argument. Just like, remember, if I have given a constructor by name sum, just the parenthesis should be there and no argument inside the constructor. No default argument should be there in the constructor. Okay, it is invoked automatically when an object is created. Okay, after that, constructor is not having default argument. No argument is having with the constructor. Come, we shall see the next rule. The next rule is, it is not possible to refer the address of the constructor. Okay, not possible to refer the address of the constructor. Why we cannot refer the address of the constructor? Because the name of a class is given to the constructor name. In other words, the name of a constructor is same as that of the name of a class. So for this thing, it cannot be possible to refer the address of a constructor. And the last point regarding the rules of a constructor is, the constructors made implicit calls. The constructors made implicit calls. Implicit calls. Constructors made implicit calls to the operators. To the operators. Okay, the two operators, they are new operator, okay, and delete. New and delete operator. For these two operators, implicit calls are made, not explicit. Okay, implicit calls are made for the operations, that is new and delete, when memory allocation is required. Okay, implicit call is made by the constructor constructor for the operators new. And what are these operators new and delete? In our next chapters in detail we will going to discuss the new operator and delete operator and all. Okay, and new function, delete function, and many more things regarding these things. Just to remember here, new and delete. For these two operators, constructor will do implicit calls. Okay, at the time of memory allocation. So these are the rules for writing a constructor. And now I am going to give you the syntax and example of the constructor. Okay. Now first I will write the syntax for constructor. Okay, syntax. That is, first we have to give the class name. Class, then class name. Okay. After that, open class, then private. Okay. Under private, give the data members. Okay. After that, public. Here under public, now we need to give the class name itself. Why we will give class name here? Because this is a constructor. So we need to give the class name here. Then after that, start the working of this class name. Okay, here statements are written, and then here the member function is called with return type. Then after that, this class is going to be closed here. Okay, this is the syntax. Now I am going to write the example for the same syntax. Okay, class. Okay, take the class name as sum. Okay, take it as sum. Class name as sum. Then for that, under private, okay, take two variables, that is both are integer type, A, B. Okay, after public, under public, okay, you need to define again the class name, that is sum. Okay, because I will show you which is the constructor. Then after this sum, we need to do the calculations for these things. That is, A equals Z. Right, like this. Then after that, void, then display. Void display. After this, close the class here. See. This is the constructor, the sum and class name. This is the constructor. Look, it is having same name as the class. Okay, but look here, difference. How can we identify that this is a constructor? How can we identify? Look here, in class name, just the sum is given. But in constructor, along with some parenthesis is present. This means this is the class and this is the constructor. Look here, class name, no open and close parenthesis. But in constructor, function is thing. So it should be defined as a member function, and it should not given any void, any return type. See, here void display return type is given, but for the constructor, no return type is given. But it should be defined under public. Okay, defined under public section itself. So these are the rules. By following all the rules, we have given the syntax and example of a constructor. Now come, we are going to discuss regarding the types of constructors. Now we are discussing about the types of constructors. Types of constructors. Okay. Here three types of constructors are there. We need to discuss now about the types of constructors. The first one is the default constructor. Default constructor. And the next one is parameterized constructor. Parameterized constructor. And the last one is the copy constructor. Okay, default constructor, parameterized constructor, and copy constructor. Now we are going to discuss at first the default constructor. Okay, come we shall see what is meant by the default constructor. A constructor, right point wise, a constructor which does not accept, which does not accept any arguments, okay, a constructor which does not accept any arguments is called zero argument, is called zero argument constructor. Okay, it is also called as okay, what? Default constructor. It is also called as default constructor. A constructor, okay, which does not accept any arguments. Arguments means the things which are given inside the parenthesis with the function, just like sum. Then if you give anything here, then this can be called as an argument. If a constructor will not accept any of the argument, that type of constructor is called as zero argument constructor, and this zero argument constructor can also be called as a default constructor. Okay, this can also be called as a default constructor. Okay. Next point. The default constructor is useful. When it will be useful? Okay, objects. Okay, a default constructor is useful when the objects are need to be created. When the objects are need to be created. When objects are need to be created, at that time this default constructor is very useful. Okay, then after that, next point. How this is useful? Without having to type any initial values. Without having to type any initial values. Okay, so like this we can define the default constructor. Okay, it is a constructor which does not accept any argument, so it is called as zero argument constructor. And one more name for this constructor is the default constructor. Default constructor is also called as zero argument constructor, and zero argument constructor is also called as default constructor. When at the time of creating objects without giving initial values. Okay, when an objects are created without giving initial values, at that time default constructors are very much useful. So if you have asked the question, write about the default constructor, then you need to write these 2 points about the default constructor. Okay, in our next class we are going to discuss the advantages and disadvantages of default constructor, and then parameterized constructor and copying constructor. Okay, if we discuss on default, parameterized and copy constructors, then this chapter will going to be complete. If you have any doubts regarding this class, you can ask me personally. Thank you.